Hi, everyone. My name is Brooke Keneally, and today I'm going to introduce you all to the crazy cat lady trope. I was interested in this trope personally because I have been called the crazy cat lady. I've been raised with cats my entire life. I love them. I have four currently, and they bring a lot of joy to my life. So when you look at this picture, you can say, maybe it's not so out there that people would call her a crazy cat lady. But I wanted to take this opportunity to dive a little bit deeper into what this trope means in a media context. Sometimes it can be a rather innocent thing to call someone, but other times it can be a pretty harsh insult. It really all comes down to how we individually conceptualize this trope. So, this is how I'm going to break down the presentation. I'm going to talk a little bit about what the crazy cat lady trope is, give some historical background, some context. Then I'm going to share some media examples with you, some that you may have already seen in TV, shows, online. Then I'm going to analyze the trope, and then I'm going to leave you with some takeaways. So, by definition, a trope is a figure of speech. It typically acts as a commonly known phrase or word. We can derive the meaning of a trope through media like TV shows, movies, even advertisements. Really, any type of media that we can consume. So, right here, I have a screenshot from Oxford Languages defining the word trope, which is a figurative or metaphorical use of a word or expression. So, what is a crazy cat lady? A crazy cat lady most commonly represents a sad, lonely woman who uses felines as a substitute for both lovers and children, according to the author Ray Alexandra. TV Tropes describes a crazy cat lady as not being a people person, only really likes one type of animal, cats, lives alone, and is normally unkept. Thinking back to the media I've seen of this trope, I would say those characteristics are pretty consistent. So, the crazy cat lady trope has actually existed for a very long time, but in recent years, in 2001, SNL aired a skit with Robert De Niro where he played the role of an old lonely woman who has a collection of cats. And from there, this trope, it just snowballed into so many different places in media. So, right now, I'm just going to share a little bit of that video.
And now it's time for Christmas with the Cat Lady. No more fighting, you two. You hear? It's Christmas Eve. Now, Snickers, I want you to apologize to Nabisco. That was his milk. Now, come on, kiss and make up. That's it. You make Mommy very happy when you don't fight. And now it's time.
So, how is the crazy cat lady a trope? Like I mentioned before, a trope is a commonly used phrase or word. When I say crazy cat lady, I would assume that you would think of a media representation of what that looks like. So, again, an old woman, typically in nasty clothes, maybe covered in cat urine, surrounded by cats. The fact that that image, that idea is generated in your brain proves that it's a trope. Another example of this trope is from the movie Jeepers Creepers, which was released in 2001. The scene that I'm about to show you shows a kooky old woman who is more concerned about the protection of her cats than a man who had just died and they needed to send police help to. In other scenes, you can see that this woman is wearing dirty sleep clothing and is surrounded by a bunch of cats.
Killing that for me. Please, someone's been killed. Killed, you say? Yeah, a policeman. Jesus, I thought you know one of my babies.
Another example of this trope is actually from the show The Office, the American edition, of course. Angela's cat just died, and she's reminiscing about the memories they made. This example of the trope, again, reaffirms the idea that it's typically a woman who does live alone. She's single at this time in the show. She is obsessed with her cats and only really spends time with them.
This is Sprinkles. She was my best friend. I kept her going through countless ailments. I asked Dwight Schrute to feed her once, and she is now deceased. This is Halloween last year. Just a couple of kittens. This is Sprinkle.
I mean, you can even find this trope as a purchasable action figure on Amazon for only $14.95 and free shipping if you have Amazon Prime. The lady comes dressed up with a robe and sweats and messy hair, again, very consistent with the crazy cat lady trope, and couldn't be complete without the 6 cats she comes with. There are clearly some sexist connotations associated with this stereotype or trope, and I want to talk a bit more about that. Between my own experience and research, I think that the crazy cat lady trope is very misogynistic, and it's created to make women who prefer to be solitary and surrounded by animals, typically cats, to be unstable and even undesirable. As I did some deep research into the connection between cats and women, I found myself reading about ancient witchcraft. So, in ancient times, specifically during the early modern period in Europe, the women who were being accused of witchcraft were typically loners. So, they would be the village members that were on the edge of town, living alone, no husband or children. Because they didn't follow society's plan for family and marriage, which was heavily enforced because of the intensity and involvement of the Catholic and Protestant church, those women were typically the easiest people to pick on and accuse of such sorcery. Hundreds of years later, people are still associating the two together as they were seen in ancient times. A woman who is alone, a little crazy, and only really likes her cats. Like I said before, this stereotype is a very misogynistic poke at women. In an article I read about the sexist meaning behind the crazy cat lady trope, the author wrote, "The thing that connects every period of cat lady has little to do with the animal themselves. Rather, it's about a deep-rooted fear of feminine power and female autonomy, all dressed up and expertly masked with mockery, disdain, and pity in order to disincentivize other women from embracing their own power." Just like any stereotype, this trope adds to a piece to society. It's not a positive trope as it degrades women, but it's a crucial piece to understanding misogyny in our history. It's very clear that single women who prefer to be with animals are a threat because they don't want to follow the cookie cutter path society wants. How dare they be so deviant? Overall, the crazy cat lady trope has been used for hundreds of years in literature, movies, and shows. It's become a very well-known stereotype for women, and women have learned to embrace it. Having cats my whole life, I've always found myself to be a cat lady, but I'm not unkept or delusional. I just love animals, and I want to connect with them. Some women want animals, some don't. This trope acts as a piece of pop culture and society, despite it being negative, and it will most likely exist forever, considering how historical this trope is. Thank you so much for your time. I really hope you enjoyed this. And that picture right there is me with my cat backpack and my best cat, Yogo, having a great time. Thanks so much for your time, guys.